Good evening. It's Friday, February 7th, 2025, and my pleasure and honor to be speaking with John J. Jeckovich. How are you doing today, Mr.?
Very good, very good, very
You're
good.
looking
We're doing
well.
splendid. We're doing splendid.
You're looking well. Nice clothes on. Guess you got a haircut a few days ago.
2 days ago, I got them last month.
No. Just last week. You're doing fine. New shoes, socks, sweater. You're doing really fine. So we're reading your book, Their Mother's Sons, and we're getting pretty close to the end. How many pages is this?
849.
Wow. And we're knocking on the door right now of 817.
Well, you got a long way to go.
Well, I hope you're writing the second book. You can at least give me a couple chapters in a week or so I have some documentation. So, so what's the passcode, Mr. Jeckovich?
420965.
That's Mr. Jeckovich's dog tag number that opens up the laptop so he can read his book titled Their Mother's Sons. Their Mother's Sons. It's a very interesting book. It shows you how simple things were back in the day. And it takes you from Mr. Jeckovich's age at 11 to his age where Mr. Jeckovich right now is knocking on the door of 100. Mr. Jeckovich is knocking on the door of 100. Doing just fine. Good evening.
Hello.
And so how are you feeling today, Mr. Jeckovich?
Very good, very good.
All right, you're looking well. You're looking well. Mr. Jeckovich was from Company H, the 2nd Battalion of the 291st Regiment of the 75th Infantry Division of the U.S. Army. He's affectionately was called back then the Diaper Division because everyone was so young.
Everyone was 19 years old.
17,
33.
18, 19. Yes, and the code name for that age group is 33. However, by the time the war ended, Mr. Jeckovich's division had other names. For example, they're the one that defeated and took great pride in ending one of the largest wars in Germany, titled as the Battle of Bulge. They ran the Nazis into the ground, even though they were highly outnumbered. They were caught on surprise. And then later, Mr. Jeckovich freed the prisoners of war in the Holocaust and also the Holocaust camps. So they're affectionately called in the beginning, as they were green, the Diaper Division. But at the end of the war, they were giving another name, and rightfully so. Actually, they were giving two names. Number one, they were called the Bastards of Bastogne, and also the Bulge Busters. Bastards of Bastogne, they held it tight. It was very difficult. They were surrounded at all ends by Nazis, and at that time it was like about 600,000 Nazis to about less than 10,000 Americans until the troops came in. Until the troops probably came in. It took a long time due to the fact it was 35 degrees, wind chill factor, everything was frozen solid, major snowstorms taking place, and they couldn't get any help from the airplanes, right?
No.
Couldn't get any help from the airplanes. It was just that simple. So they held it tight. The casualties were high. Not many were left, but Mr. Jeckovich survived, and he's here to speak about it. No one knew that he was a combat soldier until about 2 or 3 years ago. Very interesting. That group is very humble back then. And then Mr. Jeckovich wrote a book, and in that book it included a couple chapters on World War II. But the book whole premise is when Mr. Jeckovich's father died at approximately 43 years old, Mr. Jeckovich was 11, and he was the only one to take care of his mother. He was the only one available to take care of his mother. So as a result, this is how he got into the front line as a combat soldier. if he would have enlisted, he would have had a better position. He would probably have been rear echelon if he really enlisted, right? But he waited for he sacrificed and waited until Uncle Sam called him via the draft, and then you get the worst position. Once you're drafted, you have nothing to say, you have no bargaining power, and you basically are sent right to the front line, and that's what Mr. Jeckovich sacrificed. That time, instead of enlisting, he waited for the very last minute he was drafted so he could care for his mother. He took care of his mother to her demise, aged 89, and then Mr. Jeckovich now has been retired in Florida for the last 40 years. That's a pretty nice retirement.
Yeah.
That's a pretty nice retirement.
1980.
Huh?
1980.
Wow, that's a beautiful retirement, Mr. Jeckovich. That is a beautiful retirement. So that's what the book, and basically it starts when Mr. Jeckovich was 11. Mr. Jeckovich was born in 1925. That's when gasoline was 7 to 8 cents a gallon. You'd fill up your big monster cars for like $1.70 or $2 or $3. And then houses, beautiful houses, were $2,000 and $3,000. And wow, and cars were $700 and $800, brand new. Mr. Jeckovich also lived through the Great Depression of 1929. Did you feel that any results of
I
that?
don't feel neglected. No, I didn't feel neglected at all.
So you were happy as could be.
Yeah.
Happy as could be. Yeah. And back then there was no television. You went outside and you entertained yourself. You got good exercise. You didn't sit in front of a TV or a laptop or be on cell phones, because cell phones were unheard of. They didn't even have phones in our house. It didn't exist. It didn't exist. The most entertainment they would get is they'd have a little $2 or $3 radio in the living room, and at night the whole family would gather around it.
And it shut down at 10 o'clock.
Shut down. But what was some of the radio shows you listened to?
Ozzie and Harriet, the Phil Solomon Girl Co-Orchestra, and who's the other one? Oh, that's Swede.
Yeah. And then later, like in the 30s, late 30s and early 40s, Mr. Jeckovich's house, when he's a freshman in high school, got your first phone. It's a big dial phone that hung up that was positioned on the wall, and when you picked up the phone, what did you hear?
It was a party phone. You hear somebody talking.
So 99% of the time when you picked up that phone, there was other people on the street sharing that line.
Yeah.
And so when you finally checked it, and you're able to have a dial tone, what happened then?
Then they listen to what you're talking about.
Then they listen to every word you're saying.
Yeah.
And those who are young enough to know, these phones were like bolted onto the wall, and there was no push buttons. You dial them with your index finger, you spin them around, and the cord is about a foot long. The cord is about a foot long. But actually, that phone there that was bolted to the wall gives you much more freedom than your cell phones do today. Let me tell you why. Those listening right now, look in your purse or look in your pocket. Everyone's got a cell phone. You're on a beckoning call of spam calls, people you don't want to talk to, and your phone does not stop ringing from the time you wake up, or even before, to the time you go to bed. And and any problems you have, those problems follow you along via the cell phone.
Yeah.
Well, back then when you only had that phone that was bolted to the wall, the only time anyone could reach you was when you were in that living room, and that was an hour a day. So no one could listen to you or bother you, and you had much more freedom. You had much more freedom. And finally, in the 50s, the TV was presented. It was black and white, and you had 3 channels. And you yourself were the human remote control. How'd you change your channel?
I would say you had them. Dial it in.
Yeah. And many times, it was almost all houses that had a TV, the knob to change the channels, which you only had 3 channels, and everything shuts down at 10 p.m. or 11 until the next morning. Many times that plastic knob got so much use that it broke off. So everyone had on their coffee table back then what they use.
Pair of pliers.
Yeah. So that was kind of, you were a human remote pair of pliers. You'd walk up, get off the couch, go to the TV, which is a big monster thing, maybe a 21 or 24-inch screen, but it had a big wooden compartment. It was like, it'd take 3 people to lift it. It was so heavy. And then you get up and take those pliers, and then you'd change it to 3 channels, and that was it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And at 10 and 11, the TV was shut off. There was nothing being broadcast. And then they did enjoyable things outside. For example, when you wanted to have an ice skating rink on your street, what did you do?
Open the fire hydrant. If it was cold enough and freezing enough, you open the fire hydrant, put it on the street. Water.
Yeah, simple fun. Nothing devious about it. It was an acceptable way. Pop open your fire plug, let the water go in the street. 2, 3, 4 hours later, in a cold winter day, kids are ice skating, getting great exercise. Also, you had a creek near your house. How often did you skate on that?
What?
You had a creek next to your house.
Oh, that was down the street, yeah, but that creek was frozen. You could go from my street all the way down to Hyde Park.
Wow.
Underneath the 2 bridges.
Wow. Was the 2 bridges really low? We had to bend down?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Did you also play hockey?
Played hockey on the street, yeah.
On December 7th, 1941, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, where were you?
I was out Sunday skating on the creek, and my mother said the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
And she said, you're probably in trouble, right?
Yeah, she said, you're in trouble. You're going to be going pretty soon.
Oh, wow. And you did.
Oh, yeah.
And you did. There's a little miscellaneous facts of Mr. Jeckovich's book I wanted to speak about. But United States...
17 minutes.
The United States, what'd you say?
17 minutes.
The United States, before the bombing of Pearl Harbor by the Japanese, they weren't in the war. They were on a lend-lease program.
Yeah.
They were lending money
To England.
to England and equipment and weapons to fight the Germans.
Yeah.
And they're on lend-lease. But then shortly thereafter, and through the Blitzkrieg, London was getting bombed like hell.
Yeah.
They were bombing them day and night. But enough was enough. When the Japanese bombed our ships at Pearl Harbor, the Navy ships, the next day, the United States entered the war.
Yeah, declared a war. Yeah.
However, the same day that Pearl Harbor, where the Japanese bombed our ships, the Canadians entered the war one day before us.
Yeah.
Interesting. But up to that time, we're supplying a lot of money. But at this point, once our ships are being bombed, we had no choice.
Yeah.
We had to declare war. But all during World War II, the mainland was never touched.
No.
People were living their life like normal.
Well, the ocean saved us.
Ocean in that big pond
Yeah.
was a major difference. Today it might be different because a lot of these missiles could go across the ocean, I can tell you that. But back then they didn't have the missiles or the bombs that go across the ocean. So basically a lot of the people in the United States, in fact all the people in the United States for example, were really untouched by the war.
Yeah.
If you weren't...
They weren't bombed like England was.
Huh?
They were not bombed like England was.
Well, we had no bombs. Pearl Harbor was it.
Yeah.
And that was, 3,000 miles outside of California. So we basically weren't touched. But as Mr. Jeckovich says, we're still considered the superpower. The United States superpowers, from the perspective of the Europeans who were suffering during World War II, Europe suffered tremendously. They leveled most of those European towns, bombed the hell out of London.
No food.
No food, everything was on ration. The Europeans were suffering during World War II, The United States seemed like the Superman of countries. Nothing could hurt it. That's true. Well, now it's different. The United States can be hurt now with long-range missiles and nuclear bombs. For one thing, North America had massive natural resources compared to European countries. Not exactly hard considering that the United States is almost 10 million square kilometers compared to France's 6,500,000 kilometers, but still impressive. Canada is bigger than the United States, but it's interesting. Canada got in the war a day before we did, but today you fast forward to 2025, the United States is giving Canada $200 and $300 billion a year just for protective services.
Yeah.
We're still big brother to Canada. They couldn't do the job that we could do.
No.
So everyone relies on the United States. Everyone relies on the United States. But it's still impressive. Canada is bigger than the United States in terms of landmass, at least as rich in natural resources. But its population was a fraction of the United States. And it wasn't nearly industrial developed at that time, making the states a much bigger power. For example, you remember Bethlehem Steel?
Oh, yeah.
Bethlehem Steel, in the height of World War II, had over 30,000 employees. Some of their steel mills in Pennsylvania were over a mile in length.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, each and every day, Bethlehem Steel produced one massive warship in a day.
Yeah.
That's how many they were producing.
Yeah.
One warship per day. And now you fast forward, they were very instrumental in us winning the war because they're giving us a lot of supplies. But if you fast forward, Bethlehem Steel was put out of business and bankrupt, and everyone's out of a job due to Chinese cheap steel.
Yeah.
But there's a great word of caution. When you're buying steel, you have to really be cautious the quality and the grade of steel. Because Chinese will sell you what's called steel, but the grade is low. Very worrisome to build a skyscraper with Chinese steel. Another example, keep in mind Chinese sheetrock. You remember Chinese sheetrock?
Oh, yeah, yellow stuff, yeah.
Chinese sheetrock was selling far less through Home Depot and Lowe's, this sheetrock, far less, and it was called Chinese, later was termed Chinese sheetrock, and it put a lot of manufacturers in the United States out of business because they couldn't compete with the low price. And what happened then with the Chinese sheetrock, that was made out of the ash of the nuclear furnaces.
Yeah.
Wow. That was made out of the ash, the residue of the nuclear furnaces. And so as a result, everyone with Chinese sheetrock was getting sick in their house, and it all had to be removed with many, many lawsuits, and still many lawsuits are pending today. So Chinese sheetrock ruined the sheetrock business in the United States. Now it's back. No one will buy Chinese sheetrock again just to save a buck or two a panel. And then the Chinese unfortunately took over the steel trade, which is bad. Also in Buffalo they had great big steel mills too.
Oh, yeah.
And many of the companies that made products not related to the war converted their operations over to war-related items such as grenades and pistols and rifles. Clothes and things like that. So everything on the United States side was geared up, but the United States never seen any bombing. But on top of that, the United States are separated from Europe by thousands of miles of oceans. While it wasn't hard for the Nazis to invade France, an interesting story, when the Nazis invaded France, the Nazis thought it would take them 3 or 4 months to win. Ironically, France had more soldiers, more equipment, more weapons, and they were on their own territories, And the Nazis took over France in about 36 days. And it was occupied, they occupied France for 4 years and took people, combat soldiers like Mr. Jeckovich, invaded France and kicked their asses out back to Berlin. But they were there for 4 long years. And we still have, within the last 2 or 3 months, we have people from France standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, reading a really nice speech to Mr. Jeckovich, thanking him for his service and thanking him for helping liberate France. And once again, France outnumbered German soldiers, France outnumbered them in equipment, yet France in 36 days was occupied by
Germans.
by the Germans until Mr. Jeckovich and a whole hundreds of thousands of other young 19-year-olds kicked their ass and they moved them out. It's an interesting thing. A lot of dead in France, a lot of destruction. But on top of that, the United States are separated from Europe by thousands of miles of ocean. While it wasn't hard for the Nazis to invade France or bomb out Britain, boy, they destroyed London.
Oh, yeah.
Blitzkrieg, every day and night, another building gone. It would have been a massive investment for them to even get planes all the way to the United States, much less actually drop bombs on the United States. Economic and political centers, which were almost spread out pretty widely compared to Europe's. Japan got close enough to Hawaii to make an attack, but Hawaii is still 2,500 miles from the mainland, from California. Even then, the bombing of Pearl Harbor was much less sustained effort than the attacks that Germany made on London. The Blitzkrieg on London was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. They're bombing the hell out of them.
It took more resources and planning and was harder to replicate. The United States seemed like a superhero country in World War II, but its superpowers weren't anything but mysterious. It was huge and it was far away. Another thing that took place during the bombing of Pearl Harbor, there was many fanatical Japanese pilots, and they would kamikaze.
Yeah.
They'd run their planes with themselves in it into the ships of the United States, come right into it.
Yeah.
They knew they were going to die, so they just kept coming. And they came in and their bombs were loaded in their ship. And also, later, that method was picked up, so in different areas of fighting, there was also numerous kamikaze pilots bombing our ships and others.
Yeah.
They didn't have to shoot, they just ran the plane right into it, and massive bombs inside. It was a sad situation, but that's what the facts were. So, minutes please. Was there something here that came in?
Oh, yeah, 6 minutes.
Okay, we got a package came in for you.
The package?
Yeah,
It came from California.
California.
Marina Del Rey.
Marina Del Rey.
The Korn
Who?
family of Marina Del
Let
Rey.
me see, I'll read it. To Mr. Jeckovich, the Korn, K-O-R-N.
That's what they wear out in California.
Oh boy, that's a nice sweatshirt.
Here,
Yeah.
hold it up for everyone.
Okay, this is from the Korn, K-O-R-N, the Korn family of Marina Del Rey, California. Their uncle was a B-17 pilot in World War II. Beautiful. We'll get a nice letter out to
It's
them.
nicely embroidered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Marina Del Rey, California, the Korn family. Thank you, the Korn family.
Yeah.
Mr. Jeckovich appreciates all gifts, and it's a nice
Long
way for him to
sleeves,
start
yeah.
his evening.
Yeah, that's true.
Tomorrow we'll wear it, and plus we have a cowboy outfit that Mr. Jeckovich has to wear one day too. We
Oh.
have the hats, the glasses, the cowboy shirt,
What?
boots. You also have a cowboy outfit that came in the other day. We have to have you wear one day with the chaps.
Get a horse.
That's a nice way to say thank you to them.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to say thank you. So that was a Corn family, and we thank you very much. You made Mr. Jekovich's day. Okay. So now we're talking about, on page 817, the closing of the store. Why did the store close?
Because the city took over, but they tore us down, put a constitution in there.
Yes, the term was called eminent domain. The fertile minds of the city politicians of Niagara Falls, New York, decided all these 200 business people, young Polish, young Italian business people, had about 200 stores. And their great wisdom, I say this very sarcastically, they thought a convention center would be better.
Yeah.
And then leaving these 200 stores that were supporting
So
200 plus families. And so they bulldozed you down.
Yeah.
And but they said they'd help you relocate. And where'd they want to relocate you
We
to?
wanted to relocate up where the people had wash machines.
They want to relocate Mr. Jeckovich to a place called DeVoe.
Which is a high residential.
At that time, it was very expensive homes. I don't know what it is now. It might be a ghetto. But it was called DeVoe, all nice homes. And everyone had a washing machine.
Yeah.
Or maybe two. So how would your business have done there?
Nothing.
And so that was the government's idea. We'll help you move to another location. It didn't work. So millions and millions of taxpayers' dollars were wasted on the convention center. And how did the convention center turn out?
It soured out after 6 months.
It was a complete, dismal flop. Are you surprised?
No.
No. It was a complete, dismal flop, taking away the income, the livelihood of 200 beautiful families all around that area. They had small mom and pop shops, Italians and Polish family, and a few Greeks. And they were never to be able to reopen.
No.
That was their one shot at it.
Put everything in storage.
Done. At that time, Niagara Falls was considered a city. It had a population of 50 to 60,000. Now Niagara Falls does not have that status. Niagara Falls has the status of a village because there's only 10 to 11,000 residents left.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider moving back to Niagara Falls?
No, never.
What kind of condition is the city, as a village in now?
Probably run down.
Run down. I was told you need a gun on your side.
Huh?
I was told you need a gun on your side to go to most areas. It's that bad.
Oh, yeah.
And also what took place, it's a shame. It's a shame that the politicians allow this to happen. They allowed the Chinese to buy about 30 or 40 blocks of homes. The Chinese near the Niagara Resort, they bought 30 or 40 blocks of homes, and that was many, many years ago. And to this date, the homes are deteriorating, they're falling into the earth, and those 20 or 30 blocks are all fenced in, no occupancy.
Nobody's living there?
No. Similar to like Love Canal, remember?
Yeah.
Love Canal had all poisonous chemicals, the biggest toxic dump in the world, and that was fenced in, and everyone would move because there's yellow and purple stuff seeping out of the ground. Many people became terminally ill from it. Many people had great mental disorders.
Yeah.
Many people had received great mental disorders. And not only was there many homes in Love Canal of Niagara Falls, there was also something called the projects. The projects had apartments that would house 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people that were on welfare.
Yeah.
And everyone I knew at the projects, they had all some serious mental disabilities.
Yeah.
That to this day, it's so strange. It is so strange that they're selling some of these dilapidated homes back to residents for like $1,000 or $2,000. And some people are ignorant of the fact